Welcome to another episode of Don't Shit on the Bus. I am Adam Elmakias, tuning in all the way from Los Angeles, California, and this is a podcast all about getting you on the road, getting you on tour, or just learning about everything and anything that goes on in the music industry. So, we'll talk about what goes out on the road, back home, in an office, anything having to do with the crew or working side of the music industry. We are here to cover that, answer your questions, and hopefully help you on your journey in this ever confusing thing we call the music industry. Anyway, this week we have the amazing Thomas Falcone, who is a good friend of mine, also a music photographer. I do know a lot of music photographers, but that's okay, because when they come on the show, we don't just talk about music photography. We talk about what they are good at, which, yeah, they all have in common. They're good at photography, but there's a lot more to this job than what you do on a day-to-day basis. And you should know that by now if you have been listening to this podcast. And if you're a new listener, well, now you know that. Anyway, Thomas is not only a good friend and a great music photographer, but he is well-versed in the social aspects of the music industry. And when I say that, what I mean is he's just so good at when he meets somebody, getting to know them, being their friend, and kind of navigating the social intricacies of this industry. And I've always admired him for that because I've known him for a while. And, every time he walks into the room, he's always this like bright, shining ball of just positivity, good vibes. He's a good dude. And to be able to have him in my life has really affected me positively. We became a lot closer over the past few years, and he just effortlessly is so easy to get along with. And he makes it look easy. And for me, it's really hard because by nature, I am pretty introverted. If it was up to me, I'd stay home all day and just kind of learn on my computer, in my garden, quote unquote, LA garden, whatever you want to call it. I would kind of learn on my own, do my own thing. But Thomas, man, he's hanging out with people. He's meeting them. He's going to shows, making friends. He's doing what we call networking, but what he just calls, that's just life. He just lives life. So I wanted to take this opportunity to sit down with him and have a formal conversation about what it's like to navigate the industry in his shoes and kind of understand, how he got from, he started out working, doing merch and doing photography. He only did merch for a little bit. I got to get that right because my understanding of his past was incorrect, but he did these other jobs on the road, went from Mayday to Parade to All Time Low to eventually working with Big Shawn and then Dylan Francis. And from there, he's worked with Usher, Shawn Mendes, and he's just friends with every photographer out there and all the musicians. He's just a likable guy. So we've got a lot to learn from him because everybody wants to be a likable guy or girl. And that is what he is good at. So we're learning it from the master himself this week. As always, thank you to the Patreons for supporting the podcast. That is what makes this podcast ad-free, straight to your cell phone and available every Sunday night, Monday morning for you to listen, learn, and enjoy. So with that being said, enjoy my conversation here with Thomas Falcone, and I will see you next week on Don't Shit on the Bus. No notes today.
We ain't got no notes.
Tom, today you're on a podcast, and I just want to say, how's pool going?
Pool's cool. It's a little overwhelming because, to be honest, I can't play on my computer. It's like a phone game only. So obviously, working on the computer all day and then getting all these pool requests of playing people in pool. Then I have to go to my phone and then go back to my computer and then go back to my phone. It's the whole thing. But I've gotten a lot of requests to play.
So you could say life's really struggling for you over there on the Thomas Falcone corner. You're playing.
It's not struggling. It's
too many people to play pool with.
Yeah. I think I just put it out in the universe that I was pretty good at iPhone pool. And here we are.
Anytime somebody can be challenged or their ability at something is threatened, of course you got to step up to the table. And
I actually have a really funny story about a challenge that I did recently that I challenged somebody to play Connect 4, but I can't say his name. And I was in their home and you
already said his. I wasn't sure if you were going to they there to conceal their identity, but okay, no. Anyway, keep going.
I challenged this person to Connect 4 at his dinner table, and he went on a rampage to go find Connect 4 in his mansion of a house and could not find it. And everyone at the dinner table was like, I can't believe you just challenged him in his own house to Connect 4. And I was like, it was a joke. It was legitimately a joke. And I went a little too far. And
did you lose on purpose?
No. Okay. So that was the thing. So here's the thing. It's first of all, 5 people went to go find Connect 4. Nobody found it. I was convinced that he was just going to send somebody out to go get the game so we can play, because that's how serious this.
Oh, you were with somebody who had a lot of money, it sounds like.
Yes. And, but the thing is, like, do I let him win in his house or do I beat him in his house? Like, what's the, how do
what's the significance of in his house? Explain that to me.
It's a respect thing. It's like, this person obviously is, well-known person, and,
Okay, so my question is it more or less respect? Like, to me, it's less respectful to play easy on somebody because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, totally. But like, who knows? Who knows if, he'll even know that I kind of let him win or something.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't figure out, you're good.
So thank God the game was never found, but it was really serious. Like, it was really serious, and I was so nervous. But it was just me being me, and just like me just being like a normal guy, just being like, "Yo, I'll challenge you in the Connect 4 game," and somebody just taking it a little too far. And
what'd you say, bro? What'd you say? You'll beat me at what?
Yeah, that's how it went. Like, no joke.
This is a good segue into our episode, which we'll get into the topics soon, but it always throws me off when you say something casually that just like, what's the, like, I don't know, the like off the cusp or off the cuff, I don't know the saying. And somebody takes it to heart and goes in deep, and you're like, I was not expecting this. Is there any way I can take it back? What's my out?
So that's like where sometimes, I think my personality and like me being so outgoing, it leads into a very different segue of life.
Where are you outgoing?
No, I meant like, God, that was good.
Sorry, I've been watching a lot of R.I.P. Norm Macdonald. I never realized or respected him to the level I should. I love Andy Kaufman, and I didn't realize how Norm Macdonald was just, anyway, I tried. I'm glad it made you laugh though.
That was good. I suppose I had to think about it.
Yeah. That's the good. Yeah, you got to think about it, and then you're able to laugh because it's that bad. Well, I can send you a copy of not sponsored, but there's this really good game called Goat Lords that I've been playing recently. Have you ever played it?
No.
You have goats and you birth them and battle each other, and it's a card game. So it's a little less competitive, but I'll send it to you. And next time you hang out with a said unnamed person with money, you can be like, I brought this game. It's a little more complicated than Connect 4, but the winner of this is actually talented. All right, deal?
I was hoping I'm actually glad it's not Magic, because you've tried to get me to play Magic a few times. You always just
I would never try to get you to play Magic.
You always just slide it in like, so I was playing Magic. Like, do you play Magic? Like,
no, I do not.
I was like, Adam, stop, dude. Like, I don't play Magic.
Yeah. Do you want to learn this lifestyle? Our episode today has a loose topic. Thomas is a photographer, which I already told you in the intro, but we're not really going to talk about photography because, like, you're a music photographer and a personal photographer / celebrity photographers. You photograph people who a lot of other people look at. And I don't know, I feel like photography it's an important part, but I mean, I've not gotten in trouble, but maybe said something that was like mostly true, but also could be misconstrued. It's like photography is kind of the least important part of your job in a way, I feel.
Totally.
I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I think that like it's a segue to obviously the big reason why I'm doing what I do and like who I am and stuff like that. But yeah, I think like there's a lot more that goes into things that are not photography based, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think like this podcast is about the music industry and touring. And I think the principles we discussed today kind of translate to most corners of this industry. So, I mean, we talk about it and we refer to it as networking. But for me, like I've always been impressed with, I work with you now for a few years. We work together. We have an agency together. And I've always been impressed with your ability to just talk to people. And I'm pretty sure it's a combination of you being very good and me being extremely bad. And because of that, it makes you look that much better. But that's okay. That's why, we compliment each other. But I was thinking back, I was like, when did I first meet Tom? And I know when I first met you vaguely, like somewhere on tour. But the thing that sticks out to me the most is, Tom, you actually got your start in the touring world kind of doing, not your start, but you did merch for a while, right? And it was like, and Warped Tour.
Not for a while. Just one run.
Just one run. Well, that run was where maybe you had more free time than other jobs. And I was able to kind of talk to you. And I just remember coming by your merch tent, smiley redhead Tom, chilling there with his walkie-talkie, just talking up a storm. And I was like, it's Tom. It's Thomas. and you were so social, and you I'm sure you met a bunch of people like that. But a lot of people know your story. I know your story, but can we do a quick like 5-minute Tom living at parents' house when he was in his teens, as we all do, to touring to now being, working with some big name folks?
Yeah.
We'll get into the specifics. We'll get into the specifics, but give me a TLDR.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really just started with, getting opportunity to tour as a merchandise manager, not really doing the best job at that job because my ultimate goal was to be like a touring photographer. There was a lot of people that I idolized, and there was pretty much like a vision and a goal that I set myself out to do when I was on that run, which was, eventually become a touring photographer and strictly do that. And I think at that point it was possible. I think that like there was photographers being on the road here and there, but not so many. But so yeah, I kind of manifested it by putting myself in a position that I knew I wasn't going to be very happy with, but I knew that at the end of the day, it would, hopefully turn into something that I eventually wanted to do. So it kind of led me to the place to open up a lot of doors. Just being on this run of, Warped Tour with a band that let me do merchandise, and my face was pretty much just everywhere, and then during my free time, I would just shoot and shoot and shoot. And then that's kind of how, things escalated, and, networking was a massive, massive deal to the success that I've had in the last few years. So that's kind of the TLDR, sorry.
Do you know what that stands for?
Too long, don't read.
Too long, didn't read. Yeah, it's all good. Same thing. Okay, wait. So we'll get a little, that was like 2 minutes. So we'll get a little bit more in depth. But the thing that stuck out for me from that first tangent was like, you had a plan from the start. Cause I feel like, at least for me, I like got to where I was going, and I thought back, I was like, yeah, this was the plan all along. But you actually were like, I'm going to be a photographer. Let's do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was like 100% in. Like, when I was offered to go out on this Warped Tour to do merch, I specifically said, like, I would love to not do this job, but I know this job will open up many other doors. So whenever I have a free minute, when like the band comes to merch, or, I have to like restock the shirts or whatever it is, if there's any possibility to get coverage, at the merch tent, I would love to go take photos. I think that like I utilized all avenues of, my time being there, down to, the last minute of the day, like going to like barbecues and like just hanging with people, because I knew it would essentially turn into something.
It would put you in front of the people that you needed to be like, this is my personality. This is me. I also take pictures, but let's be friends.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. And, I think that like telling people about what you wanted to do also helped a lot as well.
Yeah. Like telling them your vision, being like, this is what I'm doing. So when they think of it, they're like, oh, Falcone does this.
Totally. Because, I think that people do get stuck in that fine line of like, well, for example, say somebody else does a merch job, they could easily fall into that, just being a merch person, like moving forward, and I think that like I kind of put my foot down, because I did get some merch job offers after, like, oh, like, do you still do merch? And I was like, no, but I think that there's like a fine line that you have to kind of like follow yourself, and nobody really teaches you that. But you, like you said before, it's just like a vision situation,
Yeah, I mean, you need to shoot what you want to get hired for, and if what you're quote unquote shooting is merch, man, that's not, you don't want to get hired for that more.
Of course.
So you acknowledged it for what it was, and then that's cool. Well, respect you for doing that, because I find myself not in that category. No,
I was saying it's not as easy as like people think, because realistically, when I had done that tour, I was 19 or so, and I think I was 19. All that downtime could have just been sleeping, or could have been like relaxing, because obviously those days are long, and it is a lot of work, and it does get stressful at points because you're moving a ton and stuff. But the way that I thought of it was like, I don't really have another opportunity like this, so why don't I just capitalize as much as I can? And I kind of still have that mentality to this day.
That's great. You've been able to keep it. And what is 19 for other than not sleeping and using your time wisely?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do when you're young. You can kind of push the limits. You can be a little harder on your body. Your body can bounce back. As you get older, you've learned the things. You're like, okay, I got to be a little more respectful of this flesh and bones. Well, that's cool. Okay, so you go Warped Tour, you meet artists, and then you eventually kind of turn that into touring with artists. Do you think you could give me a quick, all right, I think I know who you went to next, but can I guess the timeline?
Yeah, of course.
All right, I'm going to guess it based on artists you're with, and don't be offended if I get it wrong. Mayday Parade, All Time Low, offers from bigger artists, ended up going with Dylan Francis, Big Sean first?
Yeah, Shawn.
Big Sean, Dylan Francis, bunch of people that you work for, but not like longer than a few weeks here and there.
Yeah. There was a ton like in between, between like Mayday Parade and All Time Low. There was like, I filled in for some gigs like Steve Aoki and Before You Exit and Hoodie Allen and stuff like that. Like nothing really long term, but definitely some fillers that were fun, very fun.
You got to meet people.
Yeah, of course. I mean, a lot of those bands didn't really tour like that much. It was like they would go out for a few months here and then they take some time off, and then kind of going back to what I was saying about capitalizing on time. I didn't really want to have that time off because I was so young, and I was like, well, I live in my parents' house. It's like I might as well just be on the road. Like, I wasn't making that much money. Like,
yeah,
I was looking at like the big picture. Like, why do I have to go home? Like, I don't have to go home.
Hey, man, you're preaching to the choir. I understand fully, and I respect it.
I mean, yeah, you did it too. It's like you would try to go from tour to tour to tour to tour, and like everyone obviously talks like, oh, well, what are you doing next? And that's kind of how the conversation started. Like, well, who's available? Who's doing what? And how consistent stuff really is.
Yeah, and it didn't really occur to me how it appears to Gen Pop, like anybody else in the world that isn't kind of on the back end. But from the outside looking in, it might be like, wow, Tom is just bouncing around, right? He's going from All Time Low to a DJ to a rapper to whoever. But really, and I want to talk more about this, you kind of honestly stayed consistent because on the back end, you're actually working with the same people. The artist is just changing, right?
A lot of the time, yeah. I was telling this to somebody last night, actually, because they asked me the same question. They were like, well, how?
Well, you were playing Connect 4.
It was actually at my softball banquet. But
oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, why not?
Oh, at New York City Softball League.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's typically this about the same people, whether it's like production manager or tour managers or like some crew, front of house guys. So, there's always, I haven't done a tour in so long that I didn't know anyone, to be fair.
And is that a reflection of the vast amount of people you know, or is that more of speaking towards what we just talked about, where you're working with the same people?
I would say a combination of both. Maybe it's like the amount of people, but yeah, I think that like the more that you do something like this, obviously the more people you meet, depending on where you kind of put yourself in those situations. But yeah, I would say it's probably a good combination of both, in my opinion.
Okay, well, I mean, it's one thing to do a tour. It's another thing to make friends with people or befriend them or become a professional acquaintance. Well, there's all different levels on the spectrum of I'm good friends with them or yeah, I know them, I've toured with them. But, for me personally, it's been really challenging sometimes going on the road, especially as a photographer, to befriend everybody on there sometimes. Sometimes you have tons of free time and it's easier. And then sometimes you're with the artist and you're traveling with them and you don't see anybody else. How do you find time on these tours, or what's it like for you when you go into a tour? Are you just like, all right, I'm gonna be friends with everybody?
Yeah, it's actually kind of grown a little in like the opposite way the last few gigs that I have been on, because the crews are so big. Like we're talking like 80, 90 people, where like there's people that you see every day that you're like, I don't know if you work with us or what, it's you
have a laminate, but who are you?
Of course. And it does get harder the larger the artist is, because the crews get bigger and everyone has a tech and everyone has, assistants and stuff like that. But, I would say anything under like 40 people on a tour, or like maybe 30 people, I'll probably get to know everyone pretty well. Typically like a goal of mine. When it comes down to that stuff, it's literally just like, one, I think, and I'm sure that you can agree that being a photographer, you're trying to capture everything. You're trying to like, it's an easy segue into friendships, in my opinion. I think the more pictures you take of people and like putting yourself in these situations, then you're making those contacts yourself realistically, because one, those people will ask for your contact information and then they'll start texting you about, where the pictures are at, how they can find them, whatever it is, if they're in the crew or they're like friends of the crew or whatever. But then it turns into like, well, tomorrow I'll text you like, hey, like, how's it going? Like, how are you? If it's like a friendship situation, I'll, on days off, I'll reach out and say like, what are you up to if I'm not busy? Or, obviously there's a ton of group chats and stuff like that, but I try not to get sucked into like a box of working with just like an artist, unless it's like super, super high stress and, very demanding. But yeah, I try to just like get energy from all types of people involved on the road. I think that it's like really important to some days you'll be like, wow, like I just want to like chill and like go to a movie, and you'll be like, I know a guy for that. Then there's another time where it's like, well, I want to go out and party, and you're like, oh, well, I got a guy for that too. Like there's
Yeah, you can get a little something of everything.
yeah, everyone has different energy on tours and stuff like that, and you kind of just have to like find it a little bit and kind of like see where you fit in, And to me, it's pretty easy.
Well, for somebody who, I mean, I think that a lot of this conversation is going to be talking about things that come easy to you and you might not even think twice about, but might come more difficult to other people, myself included. And I was wondering, when you meet somebody on the road, no matter who it is, how do you go from, I mean, you make a good point being a photographer, right? It's like, hey, I took your photo. And I just want to speak really quick to that. If you're a photographer on the road, take photos of the crew. They love it. You'll be surprised how many people don't do that. And it's a super easy in. And also like, it's a great way to get your photo like on all these people's Instagram. They'll be stoked. Nobody takes photos of them. They're in places people can't go.
And to segue into that a little bit too, sorry, but like other crew people follow those crew.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
like, Gabe is kind of just like projected in like multiple different avenues that's not just an artist. I think that more the times often than not, you could probably get hired because of a crew member more than you will directly with an artist or management, to be honest.
And that sounds like it's been your experience. It sounds like that's how you get a lot of your jobs.
95% of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that crew really runs this industry more so than people realize. Yeah, it's one thing to be close with an artist, but man, artists, they don't remember people. They move so fast. They rehire people to do all this stuff for them. It's like impossible. Of course, there's unique situations, but crew is the real key to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was going to ask is, like, you're out on the road, maybe you're a photographer, maybe you're not, and there's other people on the tour. How do you go from just seeing somebody working to approaching them and talking to them and being their friend? And like, is there like a time you identify during the day, or do you do it at cater? You know what I mean? Like, is there like, if you could give somebody like a few pointers on how to befriend all these random people and maybe remember their names, what would they be?
I usually try to start off with like, not that like I go in pretty hot, but I always will come off as like a very energetic or like positive person that like everyone wants to be around.
So be yourself. You just be yourself.
Yeah, of course. But like, I think presenting that off the bat, you will get a lot of respect, whether it's like, you being in a circle with people and you're the one introducing yourself rather than them having to introduce themselves to you. Kind of like always being a step forward in front of people to be like, hey, I'm this person and I do this.
Make yourself known.
Totally. A lot of the times I definitely make jokes or compliments. I'll be like, dude, your shoes are crazy. Like I always like try to like make them laugh so they can like see a little bit of my sense of humor. And then other than that, yeah, I guess just like taking photos and being like, hey, I'm going to shove a camera in your face. Like, is that cool? But yeah, I would say that those are like the three things that I usually try to stand for, is like just making sure that you're ahead of the game a little bit.
And if somebody maybe isn't as outgoing, I guess we can kind of categorize that activity as outgoing. Is there a route they can take that is alternative and just as effective, or is this the only way to kind of befriend people? Like, what do you think? Have you run into people who are less social, and what's their vibe?
So the way that I always kind of look at crews on the road, at least, is that you guys are a team. So yeah. If you're not going to be the one to introduce yourself, someone will definitely introduce themselves to you. Like, whether you like it or not, like people will definitely come up to you, because there's always a lot of questions of like, well, who is this person and why have I never seen them before?
Do I need to kick them out of the venue right now? What's going on?
that too is like, I think that everyone is trying to get to know each other regardless, because it is a team. But yeah, if you're not so outgoing, maybe like, just sticking close to kind of like what I guess, and really not stepping on anyone's toes or like doing anything insane, I guess. I'm not sure, to be honest, because I've never really been an introvert. I just like kind of know what I know, I guess. But
yeah, that's okay. That's fair. It's fair to say I can't answer questions about things I don't experience. That is a totally fine answer. Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. Yeah. But yeah,
you'll figure it out once you get out there. Just get out there.
Totally.
But I think it's helpful knowing that on the other, like if you are one of those people who's maybe less introverted, who is more introverted, just helpful knowing there's people like you who are going to come up to them and introduce themselves. And, 50-50, it works out probably pretty good, because you rely on people like yourself to start the conversation. And that's nice.
There has been times where, like I would go into a gig and maybe not be so confident about things. But then the confidentness, if that's a word, that comes out of me would be like the next day delivering the images or whatever it is. And then people kind of putting two and two together, being like, oh, you're the dude that took those photos last night. Like, those are sick. And then that's when I kind of lead into, dude, like, well, yeah, sorry we didn't get to meet. Like, here's my number. My name is Tom, whatever it is.
Let's hang out tonight.
Yeah. Like, let me know if you do anything. Like, I'm down to hang.
Pay-per-view. Just going too deep. Thank you for giving us kind of a look inside of what probably is pretty easy to you, but maybe isn't to some people, on how to just meet people on tour. And once you meet these people on tour, like we talked about a little earlier, you kind of turn that into, I mean, it's your career. It's how you go from job to job. It's how you get your other gigs. It's how you know who's looking. And I'm sure not only are you friends with the crew, but you're friends with other photographers, and just people get you other gigs.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if we could kind of go, and you can use names if you want. Sometimes people will, sometimes they won't. It's whatever you want to do. But if you were going to go from, I think like a big jump in your career was All Time Low to Big Shawn, right? So can we talk about like how that happened and what that was like for you and how you made those decisions, and like maybe who the people are? You can name them or not name them. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I don't care.
When I had went from Mayday Parade to All Time Low, it was definitely in the same realm of genres and stuff like that, and kind of the same people. Then from All Time Low, I was offered to do the Panic. There was a Panic at the Disco tour with Weezer that they had asked me to do. All Time Low was off.
How did you get asked to do that? Like, how did Panic at the Disco find Thomas and say, oh, I want them on? Because that's like, on the front end, it's a huge jump. On the back end, maybe not so much, and we'll learn about that. But All Time Low, like, big band, couple thousand, but Panic at the Disco is playing amphitheaters. It's like over 10,000 people.
So the reason why I was recommended for that job is because All Time Low's guitar tech, Ian Planet, started working at Crush Management, which is Panic's management team.
And how did you know Ian?
Ian, like I said, was All Time Low's guitar tech.
Oh, excuse me. I thought you said Panic's guitar tech. I apologize. That makes sense.
So Ian was with ATL.
Yep.
He moved over to management side. They were looking for a photographer. He said the last person that he worked with was me, recommended me, and that's pretty much what it was, and kind of going back to knowing people and staying in touch with people. Is he's a good friend of mine still. Yeah, recommended me for the job. I took the job, and then I had another opportunity to work with Big Shawn, and it was the decision of, what do I do with my career next? Do I stay in rock, or do I move forward and kind of like experiment a little bit, or just break some boundaries in like my own life and like, push for new goals and push for like new limits of my work, So I ended up quitting Panic. Never didn't really quit, I guess. And I never
turning down the job, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. I mean, I was leaving like the next week, and, I think there was a lot of pros and cons and like about what I did, it was like
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, of course. It's like I burned some bridges, but like ultimately I did something that I'm really proud of, like by myself. I made something out of nothing, I think. But I obviously burned a little bridge on the way. But
can we talk about that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so like to set it up, you get offered a job, Panic at the Disco, and then you get offered another job after confirming this job. Now, usually in the industry, and in this case scenario, it's a really big deal to turn down something that you've already been offered. Granted, you weren't out on it yet. The circumstances, it's before the tour. Like, we know some people are going to be upset here. It's business, but some people are going to be upset. We've planned for this thing, probably bought your flights, already gone through the deals. So what are the things that you could do now? Like in your head, you're like decided, you've balanced the pros and cons. You said, I'm going to go to Big Shawn. What are the things that you have to take into consideration, and how do you alleviate the repercussions? You know what I'm saying? So maybe you could start with attending to Ian Planet's recommendation and going from there.
So, I mean, I will never forget this story, because it was like, it seemed like it was the biggest deal of my life.
It kind of was at the time, right?
Yeah, no, it was like a really, really big deal. I actually took it really hard. I don't normally quit. I'm definitely like not a quitter in any sense. I like hate to feel that type of feeling, like leaving something that I obviously didn't even get to touch or, be involved in. But yeah, my flights were booked. I had gotten this offer to go out with Shawn, and my first reaction was like, okay, this is really big. Who do I talk to? Who do I communicate this to? And who is going to help me throughout the process of like understanding what my end decision is going to be? So I'll never forget it. I was at my parents' house. I was having dinner and got the call. I went outside and I called it was like 3 or 4 people. And it was some of the Mayday Parade crew, It was Ian Planet and it was like one other person. But long story short, I had called some crew friends that I know that they obviously could help my decision of
advise.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So like, it was definitely like a peer driven decision. Like, I think like there was like 4 people that were like, yo, you need to do this. Like, you need to go out with somebody else. Like, you shouldn't do this for like your career, like your photography, opening new doors easily, very easily. It was like an emotional wave, man. I was like, what am I like? What is this? Like, what is going on? Like, Panic at that time was like, and still is like one of the biggest bands. Yeah, it was insane. But I was like, man, I want to do hip hop so bad. And then in the back end of my mind, thinking like, well, Crush Management has Lord and Sia and like all these Green Day, all these massive people, and it was really hard to make that decision, but I had to do it. And I ended up having to call Ian Planet, who recommended me. I said, hey, before I tell anyone, I want to say thanks for recommending me for the job, but I'm actually going to turn it down or actually leave, whatever. And he was actually pretty upset. But he also told me, hey man, it's a business move. Obviously this is an amazing opportunity for you financially, but then also going in a different direction with your work. So he supported it a lot. And everyone I spoke to supported it so much, which made my decision amazing and like really, really easy to make. Then I had called their manager, or I had emailed him like a pretty blunt email, just being like, hey, like we kind of need to hop on the phone as soon as possible. This is after, negotiations were made. This is after my flights were booked. This is like accounting was sent in with all my payroll stuff and all that good stuff. And we spoke on the phone, and it was really hard for him to understand. But I kind of broke it down like, hey man, this is going to be like an opportunity that I'll probably never have my entire life with an artist that I don't know. And I feel like this is the right thing to do. And we spoke about it, and honestly, he understood. It's definitely a business move, like I said, financially and like growth wise. And he was upset, and I haven't spoken to him since.
Okay, so that is the said bridge that was burned because and I mean, we can't blame him, right? Like,
no, not at all. Like I burned him. I like first of all, here's how I thought of it. I was like, yo, it's a week before the tour, and I'm not going out on this. Like, I couldn't find someone to replace them like that soon. I didn't know what to do. I called a bunch of people like, oh, can you fill in, do this? And they were like, dude, that's like, I'm busy. And it was really hard that I couldn't even recommend somebody after. But, long story short, yeah, like you said, that was the bridge because I had never spoke to Crush ever again. Unfortunately, I actually have reached out a few times since to a couple of like their creative directors and people that work in the office, and I didn't get emails put back or anything, which is fine.
They have a little note next to your email address that says
blacklist.
No, bad man. No,
it's okay. I think like it's a very open conversation because, moving forward, they actually, they work with Jake Chams now, and Jake is one of my best friends, and like, I love him to death. So it's kind of cool. Like I made a friend out of it, because if he never went with Panic, then we would have never, I mean, we maybe would have met, I'd imagine, but not in the circumstance of when and why, I guess, which is kind of cool.
No, yeah, that's great. I mean, just going back to the story, when you were calling all your friends trying to get help and advice, do you think that you would have still made the same decision if you didn't have the support of your peers? Like if you would have just made it independently?
No, because I wouldn't know what to do. And honestly, like it would have been so much more stressful on me that like I didn't have anyone to turn to. So I know who I called, like I obviously know who I called, and like
you didn't call the person that you just met yesterday on tour. You called like the lifers, the people you're still friends with.
Like to this day, like real, like people that I talk to today, like actually today, who are, more than just
I get it. You're friends with them. All right. I get it.
Okay. But people who are just like more than tour friends, like, go to like their weddings and like talk all the time. And, it's a really, really like amazing, friendship outside of just work stuff,
That makes sense. The people that would have your interests in mind, both personally and professionally, and come from a place like removed of, would it have maybe jealousy or other intentions or something, like there's nothing, they're just thinking of this in a vacuum almost.
So that's how it happened. And,
then you worked for Big Shawn for a week and he fired you, right?
No. Well, that was like the thing. I was like, I hope he doesn't fire me. Like that, after I just left that gig, like, fuck.
You're like, damn, I did this to myself.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that like, I really like stretched my limits, and I kind of like pushed the boundaries of things. And it's an amazing experience. Like Shawn and I obviously worked together for like a long, long time now, and I'm grateful for it. I think that who knows what would happen if I never did it, because
Yeah,
I
it'd
don't.
be life-changing. It's a life-changing event, right?
Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm glad that you kind of figured that out, and it sounds like you did everything correct, which I know you would have. It's not like you were like called them on the phone and you're like, "Fuck off, I'm out, motherfucker," or so. I'm sorry, I swore so much. It's my podcast, whatever. But it's not like you did anything wrong. So if somebody's reaction is they want to, sever a business tie, this is understandable. And I can say if you were in crush management's situation, you might have done the exact same thing. Maybe not, but I don't know. It's safe to say that I think everybody acted the best they could, and I'm happy that it kind of worked out, and you found that next level push, because that is a hard part of people's career. I'm sure other people touring in all types of worlds will have moments where they need to tell their current client they've been with for 5 years no, and need to say to a new client yes, and have to make that move in the best way possible because you become really close and personal with these people you work with. Yeah. Is there any advice? I think like one thing you might have said was try to fill in your spot, help move it on. Is there any other advice you can give to people about, kind of saying no and moving on in this industry?
Yeah, I think the best thing is to always have like a backup plan for them. Something that I could not put together for the gig I left, but every other gig, honestly, that I've ever said no to, I will immediately, before even responding and knowing that I will not, one, do it, or two, I'm not available, I will reach out to other friends being like, hey, like I'm about to tell this client no, can I put your name in the hat? I think a lot of people do that. It's a good look because it's like, then they don't have to put in the work. They don't have to put in the work to then go find someone else after they just wasted their time reaching out to me. So it's a good gesture. Plus, I think realistically, I think that they will look at your recommendation at a very high standard. They'll say, wow, well, we really wanted to hire him or her, but they're giving us somebody else that we don't know of them. But if they're recommending them, then we're going to trust them. So it's definitely a good look.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're saying that they're going to trust that they're a good person because, well, you're kind of putting your reputation on it, right? You're saying this person is so good that I can't do this job, but they'll do this job and you'll be just as satisfied and still like me, even though I said no.
Totally.
Yeah, that makes sense. Moving forward. Okay, so back on track. So you get the big Shawn gig, you work with him for a long period of time, and then you're kind of working with, I think eventually, you start filling in the gaps with other artists. And from what I understand, did you cover for some photographers, like friends a lot? Do you help them out when they can't do their main gig?
Yeah. Actually, in 2019, I did it a lot, and it was awesome. It was so fun. It was like the most low pressure thing of all time.
Because you get to go there for like what, a few days and just do the thing.
Yeah. I filled in for Josiah on Shawn Mendes. I filled in for Daniel on John Mayer, and then I did one more thing. What did I do? I like always make the joke to like people. I'm like, oh, I'm the best fill-in photographer of all time. Like I'm not the best because I won't make you look bad and they won't want to fire you, but like I'm also not like the worst. So like I'm like right in the middle where like the fill-in needs to be,
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of says a lot about your personality because somebody who fills in for somebody in this industry, everything is based off who you know. And if you now know all the people they know, really it's a bad decision away from you to take somebody's job. I'm not saying you would do that, but that is the worry. Maybe like, hey, if they find somebody else, I can't do this gig. Am I going to lose this gig to them because they're more available? So how do you think, or what do you do to become such a good friend to and trusted person to these other photographers to be their kind of go-to fill-in, somebody they trust to do their job, but at the same time, not threaten or remove them from their job?
I mean, I think it's literally just like what you said is it's like, I don't think that any of the people that I have filled in before, like, I don't think they expect me to be like over and like all over the place and like reaching out to management, reaching out to like tour manager. Like, I think realistically, I just like go in, do my job and get out and like have a great time. But I'm not following up being like, oh, like, do you need somebody? Because like, it's kind of like an unspoken rule of, hey, you're just there for X amount of time and it's nothing more and nothing less. And
let's speak about that rule. And, might be totally, might be like water is wet kind of inferred for you. It's like, well, yeah, of course you don't do these things, but you're coming into somebody else's job. How is that job different than a job where we talked about earlier, where you're kind of out and you know everybody? What's the difference between that job and what are your goals that are different?
So I mean, I guess a good example for even the Shawn Mendes one that I did for Josiah is, so long story short, I was put on a group text with a ton of people, midway through when I had gone down there, they were like, oh, well, we can talk like out of the group. And there was a point where I was just like, well, I feel uncomfortable doing that because this is Josiah's gig. Like, I just want him to have the visibility of looking at the conversations, whether he looks at it or not.
You're keeping him on CC.
Yeah. It's like, they don't need to read it because obviously I'm filling in for a reason, whether it's like a death or anything, but I want them to feel comfortable that I am not going in there trying to steal their job, like trying to go behind their back, like being weird, which, I think my personality shows a lot of that I'm very trustworthy and stuff, but it does happen with some people and I just don't want to be that guy. I'm just like, hey, like, let's just leave this group chat. Like, it's cool,
Yeah, everything's good. Well, I mean, that is very much, don't shit on the bus style. It's like, you should never take somebody else's job.
Yeah.
Like that is like I feel like if somebody in our social group did that in this professional social group and people heard about it, they would pretty much be excommunicado, right? They would be like out of the group because that's just not, too, what's it called? It's just wrong, right? I don't know.
I mean, a lot of the time, and the few gigs that I've done this year, the first question I have had was, well, do they have a photographer? Like, why are you looking for somebody right now?
Yes. That's the first question you ask them.
Yeah, because, I was like, how do you not have a photographer? Like, what, or you're reaching out to me to like do like fill in, or, I always try to just be very transparent of kind of the situation. I'm actually filling in on a gig for Vogel as well, like every few weekends, but same exact thing. So when I first started filling in, he called me, we made it happen. I did it. And then the tour manager and production manager asked me to come back. But before responding to them, I called him and I said, hey, are you not available for this? Because they reached out to me. I don't want to be stepping on your toes.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm not available. So he's like, you should do it. So yeah, just like out of respect, like before responding to people, I just like want to make sure that whoever I would be filling in for, they're one, okay with it. Two, they know about it. And then three, hey, if they want the gig back, take the gig back. It's just like an unspoken rule in my opinion. But I do love filling in for people. I think it's awesome.
Well, I'm glad that you are able to, are able to establish, how you roll to a level that people are comfortable with you doing that. And it just kind of goes to show like, it's okay to be friends with everybody, even the people that you're quote unquote competing with. You're kind of all in this together, and your community kind of will help each other if you do that.
Totally. Those are the people that like you can really lean on for like the last minute. Like, oh, like I have to be somewhere, or I want to do something else, or I want to take some time off, and like those are the people that, you're closest to, that you can rely on and be like, hey, are you available to fill in for me and do exactly what I would do, if not better, because it's also going to be a good look on them as well. So, for example, when I started doing the Roddy Rich stuff, I was filling in for Vogel. It was like, oh, look, you're Vogel's friend, right?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Yes, I am. He's my friend too.
Like they don't know my name or anything, but they're like, you're Vogel's friend. I'm like, yeah. Sure.
You got the cosign from Vogel, man.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, now that we've kind of talked about, I don't know, the different ways you navigate the industry in person, on the road, meeting artists, hanging out with crew. I think this is all valuable lessons for people who are in the industry or trying to get in this. Everybody can learn from this, myself included. But, a lot of people have been spending the past few years at home, and a lot of people maybe aren't having FaceTime with other people. So for people who are trying to get on the road and want to reach out, and I'll get hit up, in the term people usually use is like, I want to pick your brain, which I don't think is the best way to hit somebody up.
Yeah.
What can people do to kind of befriend or start relationships with people over the internet in the appropriate way that lets or people know that, hey, they're here to try to become your peer? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, like supporting them. I saw someone during the pandemic saying something along the lines of like, reposting is free. For example, like say you follow a photographer that you really like their work, like you just don't like their work, you just don't double tap it. Like there's ways to like support your friends, and there's ways to like comment and like hype them up and like be really, really supportive and, help them in any way possible when it comes down to, just trying to help them get their name out there. So it doesn't seem like you're kind of like selfish too, that's why I always like comment people's stuff. Like I do love a lot of people's work. I'm always just like, yo, like this is sick. Like, and it takes no time out of my day to just be like a positive person and, like a little inspiration here and there.
How do you do that without taking any time out of your day? That seems impossible.
I pause the clock and then I go on Instagram. No, I mean, like it's free, it's not like not that much work, but yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's cool to like talk to people like that and, hype your friends up and keep them motivated,
So even if somebody's not your friend, even if you're looking at becoming somebody's friend, just be a friend or be a supporter and treat them kind of, as cliche as it sounds, how you want to be treated, and just show your support in a very visible way, not with the intention of being like, hey, you're going to like me now, but with the intention of I want to show my support, and any positives that come from this, let's do it.
Yeah, a lot of the times I'll like look at comments, and sometimes like I see a lot of people commenting, like a certain picture or whatever it is, and I'm like, wow, that guy said something really, really nice. Like, who is this person? And then I'll like go to the profile and be like, oh, wow, they're like a really good photographer, Yeah. And it's cool to see the support like in the community of any type of field that you're in, because kind of what you were saying before is like it's okay to befriend the people that are quote unquote competition. It's not really. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing to be friends with them. We're all here to support each other.
Well, thank you for that insight there, because I can say that I personally don't interact on the internet as much. And, I do get worried sometimes that people are like, man, that guy's an asshole.
You said it to me today.
Yeah, I've projected that before. I was like, do people think I'm a dick? Because I'm not. But like, my own mental health, I just can't do it. But if you can do it, because it really... people notice, and it really changes their day. And it's a small, like Tom said, it's a small amount of input from your end, and it can really change somebody's life. It can really affect them. And I'm sure we all have comments or things we can think back to from, maybe it's, I don't know, for me, I think back to things people tell me in real life, or my teachers have told me, and they're really simple things, but the person, I looked up to them so much, they're so impactful. And they really affect you and change your trajectory. And I'm sure, do you have any times where somebody says something to you where you're like, wow, this is fucking cool, that stick out, comes to your head, like you're like, oh my God.
It's actually, I'm glad we brought this up, because it happened to me like yesterday or the day before. There's a hip hop artist on tour right now, and I had seen a hip hop artist on tour.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So J. Cole's on tour right now. I saw some photos like on my Discover page, and I think it's one of the openers photographers. And I was like, oh, I've never seen this guy's work before. And I started following them, and they instantly DM'd me, like instantly. And they were like, oh my God, like, thanks so much for the follow. Like, you're a legend. And I was just like, dude, safe travels. Like, have a great tour. Like, I was like, that's so cool. Like, cause he wasn't following me, and, I don't know. I'm sure he's maybe, we've crossed paths in the past, but whatever. But yeah, instantly DM me like, man, like, I'm so glad that like we just linked. And I was like, yeah, man, like, how are you? Like, are you on the whole tour? Like, what's going on? And they seemed really, really excited that we just followed each other,
Yeah. It's something as easy as that.
It was so simple. And it was like within seconds, like they must have gotten the notifications like, Thomas Falcone followed you. And then like, yeah, it was cool. And then we've been talking like a little bit here and there. So.
And that's how friendship is made, not on tour.
So yeah. And then like, if I go to like one of the shows, it's like, yo, dude, like we talked a couple of times, like we run into each other, and you put a face to a name and stuff like that. And it's super easy.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Respect to you for doing that. I'm sure you made this person's day.
I don't know that, but it's cool to have friends.
Sounds like you did. Oh, you made their week. Is that what you're trying to say? It wasn't their day, it was the week.
A year.
Oh, year. Okay, yeah. It's a hard year to make.
God damn it.
I was wondering if you ever, because you're pretty socially literate. I would consider you. You're very good at, making people feel comfortable talking to you. Do you have any moments where that stick out, and maybe you're like me and you blank them out, that stick out where you're like, wow, I really messed that up. I really did the thing there. Or maybe even just an embarrassing moment, because, you said you come into these situations pretty outgoing.
Yeah, I do have some. I had one that was really recent. So yeah, the other day, a couple weeks ago, actually, I hadn't seen a friend that I haven't, in years. And he has two other brothers, and only two of the brothers' names start with a C, Cameron and Connor. And he works with an artist, and he was outside the hotel. We were staying at the same hotel. and I saw him. I was really excited. We talked for a few minutes. Then I put two and two together that their security guard is a security guard that I know, and they were outside. And I was like, wow, you guys work with Kevin too? Like, Kevin's amazing. And Kevin came over and talked to me and said person. And I was like, yo, Kevin, do you know Cameron? And his name is Connor, looked at me and was just like, what? And I was just like so excited. I was like so excited to like put the pieces together because I knew both of them.
Yeah.
And Connor was just like, yeah, nice to meet you. Like, you know, like, oh, you're like the new security guard, whatever it is. And then I went back into my hotel room.
Oh, they didn't correct you on the spot?
No, they didn't correct me on the spot.
Oh my God.
Because they knew that, like, obviously I was like really excited to like introduce them. And, you know,
like, let's not burst this guy's bubble right now.
Yeah. I was just like really hyped about it. And I went back into my room and I get up there and I was like, I just called him Cameron. And it's funny because he changed his phone number. So I texted like 5 people and I was like, does anyone have Connor's number? Like I literally just called him the wrong name. Like, please give me his phone number. So I texted him and I said, hey man, like, I know I just introduced you wrong. I apologize. And he didn't care, you know, but
and he never texted you back.
No, he did. He was like, I hope to see you soon or something, you know, but it was pretty embarrassing. And, you know, it was like one of those things where I take a lot of pride in like knowing people's names and like being friends with people and stuff. And I feel like I embarrassed myself.
Nah, I think that the key thing here is that you come from such a good place that it's not like, and you didn't overreact to when you handled it the right way. Like if you would have been like, oh, I called you, I'm so sorry. Oh man, I'm so, like, if you make it a big deal, I think you just handled it correctly. And like you hit him up and you called yourself out. And that's so key is like how you handle it.
Totally. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, like I said, I take pride in like, you know, knowing people's names after like knowing them for years or whether like a week or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's like really personable. And I think that like it goes a long way too.
You're totally right, Thomas.
Thank you, sir.
I was trying to say your name wrong to show that like I messed up. It was bad though. Okay, cool. Well, that's a pretty good embarrassing story. And I like how you handled it mostly because I'm sure we've all handled them incorrectly. And we need to get embarrassed once in a while.
Yeah.
What's your best way when you're talking to somebody that you don't know their name to get their name out of them? Do you have any tricks? You definitely have a trick.
I like to go with I swear we've met before. I usually go with that one. And then I just usually say like, please remind me of your name. Like, I'm so sorry. But I will acknowledge the fact that we've met before and I'm kind of in the wrong, you know, being like, you know.
I like that. Such an easy line.
Yeah. Or this is like definitely like a me thing, but I actually ran into somebody at a festival last weekend and I didn't really recognize them. And no joke, what I did was he was like, you know, we had this whole long conversation. I was like, who was that? Like, why can
my God. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Why can I not remember this name? And so what I did, he asked me if I had the same phone number. He said, you have the same phone number? And I said, yes, I do. And he goes, I'll text you. And then he texted me and I had his number and I was like, oh, his name is like, got it. Like I had his number.
Oh man.
But like, for some reason, like I couldn't put 2 and 2 together.
That's funny. That's a good one.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of one where I tried to do that and I failed. I like talked to somebody at an event a week ago for like 30 minutes and I didn't know his name, but I've known him for years, but I just forgot. And I was like, I don't think I have your contact. Can you put your phone number in my phone? And he was like, sure. And so he put it in and then handed it back to me. And it was like, I had no way of even looking him up now. So I had to go ask somebody later. I was like, who is that person? So I could text them. And I was like, oh, that just failed.
Yeah. I wish that you can sort your contacts by like
recent. You probably can. We don't know.
But yeah, that's my move for sure is be like, I have the same number. Just text me or like, yeah, kind of what you said is, you know, can you put your contact in?
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Tom.
Dude, yeah.
It's a special week for you.
Thanks, man. I was waiting for it.
It's Thomas's birthday week. No, it's his birthday soon.
It's Friday. Well, October 1st for whenever this comes out.
No, it'll come out a few days after your birthday. What are you doing for your birthday?
Well, Connor doesn't know this, but I'm having a roast.
Ooh, what are you guys cooking?
Like a Comedy Central roast where 5 or 6 of my best friends are going to roast me.
Nice.
You know, have a party. It's kind of like a comedy show, you know, but make it a little interesting and hopefully everyone has a couple drinks and thinks my friends are funny and they just roast me.
Yeah, that's going to be great. I think that's a great idea because I don't know. This is going to sound kind of morbid, but I wish the people would tell me the things that they're going to write on my Facebook wall when I die right now. And I feel like a roast is like a pretty, is that too morbid? It's like a roast is a pretty good way to like get those things out, right? It's like, these are the things that people hold deep and dear to you and them. It's going to be the thing.
I'm nervous. It's kind of like what do you know about me that like I don't remember, or like what are stories like you clearly know about me that like I don't remember, you know?
Yeah, I like that about friends. It's like you can have such a better memory if you can talk to all the people that were with you when you did the thing.
Totally.
Well, that's great. I'm excited. I've heard a little bit of it because I'm in contact with one of the roasters, and it sounds very exciting. And thank you for finding time during your busy week to do this. I also wanted to say that I think First 3 Agency should sponsor the podcast.
Let's do it. Nice. That's fire.
Because it runs really close hand in hand with what we're doing, right?
That's great. I love that.
Do you want to tell people? Can we like drop a little bit of a self promo right now on First 3 Agency? I don't know why I'm asking you. I'm giving you permission. Yeah, Thomas and I worked together on an agency which we're doing for a few years called First 3, which if you're a photographer, you know, it's the amount of songs you get to shoot at a concert. But we mostly work with creatives. I'm setting you up. You go now.
Yeah, work with creatives. A lot of people that are not really well known and a lot of people that are well known. I think that there's a lot of room in between of people that we bring onto projects, depending on what it is. Everything from music videos to animations to photo shoots, tours, festivals. We got a whole ton of stuff.
Yeah, if you want help, and this is mostly for creatives. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're trying to be a tour manager, we can help you with word of mouth, not so much to the agency. If you want help with anything like that, hit us up. We're here to help. It kind of goes hand in hand with what we're doing on the podcast, right? Trying to educate people, help people out along their career. And, you know, it's fun. So, and if you need help getting into other areas of the industry, come on the Discord, sign up for the Patreon, hang out there. We have job ops on there and people talk, help each other out. It's a good community. But otherwise, hit up First 3. We're here to do the thing, and you get to work with Thomas and I.
It's fun.
It's fun. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's fun.
Shower shoes, no shower shoes. What's the vibe?
When I was younger, I didn't give a fuck about anything. So no shower shoes. But now I think I'm in a different part of my career where I don't really need shower shoes because I like staying in a lot of hotels.
Yeah.
I think I haven't really gone a few days. I haven't showered in a venue in a long time, to be honest, like years.
And it's not because of COVID. It's because all the venue, you get hotel rooms.
Yeah. We get hotels depending on the gig, but yeah, I haven't needed to use them in years. But if I were to shower in a venue, for sure.
What should I change the question to now that all my guests are too cool to even wear shower shoes? Window seat, aisle seat. What's going on? I don't know.
That's not bad.
They're like, I only fly business. It does not matter.
A lot of people.
I'll only fly private. Leave me alone.
Next question.
Yeah. I don't know what the thing that everybody can relate to is. All right, we'll stick with shower shoes for now. Unless you come up with something better, then let me know.
Camera strap or no camera strap?
I'm sure every tour manager would have a answer. That's true. If you have a camera strap, I have a collection of camera straps I've never used. I don't know about you. Yeah, I think I threw them away. I had some like Canon. I got to check. I slimmed down on the gear a lot, but yeah.
That's interesting. That's kind of weird.
Thank you, Thomas. Find Thomas on the internet. All his links are in the link in this area. I appreciate you coming on here, man. I hope you had fun and it wasn't too
easy,
punishing. Was it chill?
Yeah, it's chill. You know, it's easy.
We talked about the things you like to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I just like to talk. You know, that's like just me as a person. You know.
You heard it here. All he likes to do is talk. So hit him up.
Oh God. Oh damn it.